go through that, and then when we get to that item, we can discuss that. So.
All right, call the meeting to order.
Okay, as far as the roll call, I want to introduce Kyle Martin and Terry Seibel. They are new members appointed to the Heritage Commission.
Welcome.
Maggie Gillum, who was on the Downtown Design Review Board, is now on the Heritage Commission. She is not present, and Alex Driscoll is a returning member, and he is not present. But 4 is sufficient for a quorum. And I confirm with Margie that we have posted the packet, and so we have met the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice. And so that would bring us to item 2.1, which is approval of the minutes of the Special Heritage Commission meeting that was held on June 25th. So if you got your packets, I realize that Kyle...
I received a packet in the mail this week.
Anybody else would like a hard copy of the packet?
I don't know what happened. I didn't get one in the...
You have one?
I didn't get one in the mail this time around, so I don't know. The mail's being slow, I guess. Probably get it in today's mail. Thank you. Sorry. And
so item 2.1 on your agenda is approval of the minutes of the special meeting that was held on June 25th. And the primary focus of that meeting was the property up on the warehouse building up on North Santa Fe. So give you an opportunity to, realizing that Mr. Martin and Ms. Seibel were not at that meeting, but that particular meeting, Chair Reynolds had a conflict of interest and he recused himself from participating, so Vice Chair Silverman conducted that meeting.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the June 25th special meeting minutes. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye. Everyone said aye.
So that minutes are approved. The next item I have was provided upon request just for an update on, there are a lot of pending nominations that have come through this commission for different properties, and probably the one that has generated the most questions, maybe in the community and among commissioners and even staff. We've kind of laid out all the dates, and essentially the Heritage Commission and made a recommendation. The City Commission submitted a resolution of support for the nomination of the original 1914 St. John's Hospital and 1951 addition on the north to the National Register of Historic Places. That occurred in July of 2018. So it's a fair question to ask staff what is happening with that, and for whatever reason, the staff at the National Park Service seems to be continuing to request additional information, photographs, documentation. It's a fairly confusing building just because when we speak to the original, we're talking about the part that's facing Penn and along Penn Street here, and then we have a whole bunch of more modern additions that come down in this area. So I guess the way I look at it is a portion of the building that has the greenish tile roof, that's the part that's supposed to be retained, and all these modern additions here are to be removed, and so the part that was to be designated was this original 1914 building. And I don't know, do you have a front view or anything, Dustin? I wasn't sure what's in there. So this is this portion of the building here that was to be on the National Register. And so that listing has still not occurred. The property is on the state register, and the latest that we have heard is that the Sunflower Development Group, they are pursuing the state rehabilitation tax credits, and trying to move forward with something, and while still pursuing potential eligibility for the federal tax credits, which require you to be on the National Register. So, as we discussed in the room next door, there is, when you get state tax credits of 20% and the federal tax credit of 25%, and you stack those together, that's 45% tax credits, and that can go a long ways towards helping a rehabilitation be feasible. Unfortunately, St. John's they're only going to be, at this point, eligible for the state tax credit. So,
And the federals are, the National Park Service is dragging their feet or refusing?
well, they haven't said no. I think dragging their feet is a fair, it's just, in our experience as a staff, we've never seen a nomination drag on this long. Because if you look back as to when the Heritage Commission looked at it, it was in 2018. We're in fall 2020, and nothing has happened in terms of putting it on the National Register. And so if you're a developer and you're really counting on both sets of tax credits and you can't get any traction with the National Register and the federal tax credits, that's at least part of the reason why nothing seems to be happening with this property.
I would say wait 2 months and it might all change.
Yeah, so,
Sorry, I don't mean to bring politics into it, but
And surely they know enough to contact their federal regulators, or not regulators, but legislators?
right. Yeah, have they tried reaching out to Senator Moran?
I don't know what steps they've taken. They've primarily been working they have a group, Rosen Preservation. As I understand it, the National Park Service was using the State Historic Preservation Office and Rosen Preservation to come out and document some additional things, and they were having problems getting access to the property, which seems kind of surprising because you would think the owner would be more than anxious to give them access. So we don't know all the behind the curtain details. We don't have copies of all the correspondence.
So the latest information is March of 2019?
That's the latest specific information that we have.
And it's just been sitting there since?
Yes.
Wow. That's,
And there has been some contact between the owner of Sunflower Development Group and staff that they may be looking to move forward with rehabilitation just using the state tax credits and moving forward. But to our knowledge, they have not abandoned the property. They still own the property. They haven't, they still have the same vision for redeveloping the property. It's just that the National Park Service, as we said, it's a fairly complex building with all the additions to it, and maybe their application wasn't clear enough to the Park Service as far as what was being retained and what was not being retained. So the National Park Service keeps requesting additional information.
so, can we go back to the overhead view? What will become, so the rest of that structure that's not under the green roof is all additions.
Yes, all of that would be demolished.
All that will be demolished. Wow.
Yes. And so it would be green space for residents, perhaps, obviously, surface parking, things of that nature. This little addition here, it's a wing that's put
gone.
on, that's already gone. Most of this is still intact. This portion right here was sold,
Yeah.
and that has been repurposed, so it's not part of the
Right.
site anymore. But we're primarily talking about, again, the
Retaining
green
the
tile
original
roof
structure.
portion, and all of this would be removed.
Wow. 18 months is a long time for something to sit there.
Yes, it's not good for the building, staff has, it's kind of a constant, challenge for staff. We're not doing it like we have, but, there have been times when, myself and Mr. Hers and Mr. Berger had gone over there, and we would walk around the perimeter of the site, checking every door to make sure it was still locked and
Right.
secure. So there have been people that have gotten in, there have been animals that have gotten in. So our goal has been try to keep the building secure, try to keep it weather tight, try to not have any sort of vandalism or weather-related deterioration occur, but yes, having a building sit idle for that period has not been ideal.
And it's not being heated now either.
No.
I think we need to make the recommendation to the owners that we work with our elected representatives in Washington to try and see what the logjam is. Either Senator Roberts' office, I know Senator Roberts is short time, but, you know, he still has a fully staffed office in Washington, D.C. See if they can figure out what's holding this up. Roberts, Moran, or even Representative Marshall. I know he's in an election, but can we make that recommendation to the owners if they haven't tried this?
Yeah, we can try to reach out to them and make that as a
Or do we do that as
recommendation
a-
or suggestion that they try to,
Or-
that's,
Is that something we can do as a commission?
no,
Does that require a motion?
yeah, if you want to make a recommendation to have staff contact them and seek assistance from their elected officials, we'd be happy to reach out on your behalf.
So
Yeah, okay.
I'll make that as a motion, then, that we ask staff to, oh, you did?
Needs a second.
You just- okay, I'll second. However it works.
You guys can speak
All right,
up.
we have a motion and second
Chime in anytime.
to recommend that the Sunflower Development Group reach out to their elected officials to try to get their assistance with cutting through the National Park Service red tape.
There we go.
All those in favor of making that as a recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I think the ayes have it. All 8 of them.
It's not a comfortable, I mean, we've gotten lots of inquiries about it, and it's kind of worrisome to, I mean, city staff has tried to watch the building
Yeah.
very carefully. The owners are not local. We have suggested, and I don't know if they still have, but they did have a local contractor that they hired to make sure that, as kind of a watch keeper, to make sure it is secured. The next project we wanted to give you an update on was the National Bank of America building. And that property is located at the corner of Santa Fe and Iron. And you reviewed the possibility of that being nominated to the National Register of Historic Places, and in 2019 you recommended to the city commission that it be determined to be eligible. And the city commission concurred and adopted a resolution of support for that. It went to the National Park Service. Well, first went to the State Historic Sites Review Board, and they recommended approval of the listing. It went to the Park Service. The Park Service sent it back for reconsideration of whether the drive-through facility that's next door and essentially attached to it should also be included in the nomination. And the result was that the State Historic Sites Board recommended approval of that, and the National Park Service has recently weighed in on that, and we have included a letter. And so the letter dated October 1st says, "We are pleased to inform you that the National Bank of America boundary increase was listed in the National Register of Historic Places on August 24, 2020. So
they are working.
as you can see, that particular one moved a little faster, which makes the St. John's Hospital one a little more of a wonder.
Just a tad.
The next door to the National Bank of America building is what's referred to as the Teague Nelson building. It's kind of attached to the National Bank of America building. Actually had an indoor connection on the upper floors, which has since been cut off. But that is this building right here.
On the lower floor.
And there was an application to add it to the National Register as well. The National Park Service acknowledged the interesting history of the property, but they don't feel though it retains enough interior integrity and historic fabric to be individually eligible for the National Register. The letter says it might be worth reaching out to the Salina City Heritage Commission to ask about the city applying for a Historic Preservation Fund grant to survey the downtown and prepare a historic district nomination. And so that would be a big undertaking, but the difference there is that if the Santa Fe Main Street was a historic district similar to, say, the South Santa Fe Residential District, a lot of these properties would be eligible for the tax credits and incentives by virtue of being in a historic district. The downside of that is that it puts most of downtown where alterations and things to buildings downtown would be reviewed by the Heritage Commission. And so there has not been, it's been discussed, but there hasn't been a wide level of political support for trying to create a historic district downtown on the downtown Santa Fe Main Street, but that is an option that the National Park Service put out, but we just wanted to report back that this nomination was accepted and approved for the National Register. This was not approved for a National Register listing.
Based on the interior of the building?
It says based on enough interior integrity and the historic
Yeah,
fabric.
it's kind of been gutted. Yeah.
There have been a lot of interior alterations that were made to the building from its original construction.
Given how much we've spent on renovating the entire downtown, it seems like it would be just ripe for a district to preserve it and protect it.
How many buildings are being restored to their original condition?
Almost all of them, I thought. At least the exteriors are.
Yeah, I think
Maybe,
One of the things that was pointed out, and it's just something that will have to be sorted through on a staff and other level, but something that's fairly unique to Salina is we have a downtown design review board. And we have a downtown design review board that reviews all of these items. If you maintain the downtown design review board, and then you also had a historic district, you'd essentially have the property owners going before the downtown design review board, and then also going before the Heritage Commission for the same project. So that would be a double review. There may be a way to create something where it's a singular review, but
could we exempt it from one or the other? I mean,
well, that would be a city attorney discussion question, but the question would then become whether one board or the other could delegate their review authority to the other. But the primary reason that there's not been wide support for making that a historic district, the incentives were there on one side, the other side is the double review. And we had a downtown consultant that looked at it, and one of the things they pointed out was you have a downtown design review board, which is almost like a mini Heritage Commission or Historic Preservation Commission doing reviews, but you don't have the financial incentives available that come with the historic district. So,
and the other review, that's with the Downtown Business Owners Association?
it was kind of started initially, it's associated with the Salina Downtown Incorporated Business Improvement District, and it's actually called the Business Improvement District Design Review Board. So the main thing with that is we just have to work through the jurisdiction, the review, the criteria. You don't want to have a situation where a project's reviewed and Design Review Board says yes and Heritage Commission says no, and then where are you? You have to look at staffing, reports, agendas, those types of things. But I think we are on our 14th case for 2020 of items that are going to the Downtown Design Review Board. So there's, whether it's signs or exterior renovations or things like that, the streetscape project has obviously generated changing occupancies, additional investment, renovations, things like that. So the Design Review Board has been very active, and the real question is whether a project to do something to the facade of this building, does it go to the Design Review Board and the Heritage Commission? How does that coordinate time-wise? How does that get supported in staffing? How do you resolve the question if the two boards view the exterior change differently?
Right.
Those are all things that would have to be, at the same time, there are communities like Abilene and I believe even Ellsworth and places like that, that their downtown Main Street is a historic district. And so the difference is that we are a certified local government, and because of that, we get to make our decisions locally.
Well, I'd like to make a motion then that we reach out to the other board to discuss the possibility of hashing out these questions, because it seems like the benefits outweigh the, in terms of tax credits, and the idea that collectively Salina has spent so much money renovating its downtown, trying to restore it at least to some historic accuracy, that we protect this. So I would make a motion that we reach out to the other board to discuss the possibilities of applying for Kansas Historic District and National Historic District status.
Discussion, I would like to see that end result, but if the downtown merchants aren't interested in becoming a historic
That would be part of the
district.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
I'll take a
assume,
friendly amendment. We'd have to include that group as well.
Yeah, so I guess, it's not Penny Bettles anymore, is it?
yes, it
It still
is.
is?
So, yes, what a note I had here would be to reach out to the Salina Downtown, Inc., as well as the Downtown Design Review Board, to have
I can't imagine
them.
they'd want to turn down tax breaks.
to
Well,
have-
but you're limited, though, in what you could do.
Well,
You know,
what else are they going to do?
Well,
They're not
that-
building a
just that
heliport.
Flieger building, is it?
Yeah.
They could rip off that facade and put up corrugated metal if they wanted to.
Yeah,
if
but
they-
I think after everything that's been spent to finish all of the facades along Santa Fe, I don't think anybody's about to start doing that. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, it could be 20 years from now, but they've just spent, how much money have we spent? How much money has been spent collectively on renovating all of the storefronts?
Yeah, we'd have to,
Millions?
yeah, with.
To bring it back to
and if
some
you-
originality.
If you include the new construction just from the downtown hotel alone, which is new construction and
renovation of the
not a
Lee building.
renovation. But certainly the total investment is, on the private side, is in the millions.
Yeah, they've just spent millions to make it all look nice and new circa 1910, modernized, of course, but I can't imagine that they would,
Yeah.
and if anybody were to do that, I think they would kind of harangue them.
Could we just say that we'd like to invite Penny Bettles to our next meeting to continue discussion?
Sure, we can do that. And we can certainly bring it up to the design review board, but
Okay.
Penny's agency that she's associated with is the Salina Downtown, Inc. Board of Advisors, so that would be a place, but we can certainly extend that, and we can put on your agenda a background staff report about what the implications are of a historic district versus not being in a historic district. So we can do that without any kind of formal motion.
Okay.
So then your motion dies for lack of second.
Well, unless anybody wants to, nobody's looking at a second, so.
Well, the only thing it would be is, our next meeting is in December?
The next meeting would be in January.
January.
Yeah. Our next regular meeting, unless we have something, if we had something that came up before that, then we would address it then. But your next regular scheduled meeting would be January
We
2021.
could do a lot of this via email or phone before the next meeting.
Well, I don't think the wheels of motion will move that fast anyway.
Yeah, nothing is with our, all of our boards, at least through 2020, are only meeting once a month, and it's anticipated in 2021 we'll go back to our more frequent meeting schedule, but right now the Design Review Board, the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, are meeting once a month, and so not multiple times as usual, so everything's moving just a little bit slower right now.
So, Dave, let me...
That's good, that's fine. We can,
We can wait?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess so.
All right, okay.
The final update is just related to Lowell School, and we wanted to explain to the commission that we never, and we explained this to the State Historic Preservation Office, we did not bring the Lowell School to the Heritage Commission and the potential nomination in the time frame asked for by the state of Kansas. They were going to have their Historic Sites Board meet on August 1st, and they were giving us an opportunity for input. And Lowell School was going through a fairly controversial rezoning application, and we so informed the state, and we said we're simply not going to weigh in on any sort of historic nomination because we don't know what the ownership and use of the building is ultimately going to be. So as you noted from our report, the Historic Sites Board met on August 1st, and the Salina City Commission didn't make a final decision on the zoning change till August 3rd, and that is the reason we'd never brought it to this board for a resolution of support or thing, but it has gone through the process at the state and the National Park Service level, and we have attached to your report there the letter from the state or from the state saying that the National Park Service has listed the property on the National Register of Historic Places. And again, that makes the Lowell School building eligible for state and federal tax credits. But the way that the timing all fell, we just didn't want to mix the two together until there was a resolution of the land use issue, and that didn't occur till after the state Historic Sites Board met. But you can see from the letter attached, we're pleased to inform you that the Lowell School was listed in the National Register of Historic Places on October 2nd, 2020. And the plan approved by the Salina City Commission was to renovate this existing portion and to create 15 apartment units inside the existing building there, and with parking added along the east side of the building.
What are they going to do with the building on the right?
It's going to be part of the renovation.
Okay. Now, right now, there are huge piles of dirt in the old playground area. I mean, you know, it look like two different piles of 5 or 6 truckloads each.
Can't say exactly what that is for. I mean, they are going to be building a parking lot over, and there will be driveways on both streets, and there'll be a parking area over here, and then this area here is reserved for building additional single-family homes in the future as a future phase, but the renovation portion is the existing buildings here.
That's a bit of a shame, because that was an area that kids would come and play in the neighborhood. I lived.
Well, but then they changed it up, didn't they? They locked it up
Well,
because they
did
didn't
during
want the
COVID.
liability.
Well, I don't know. It was always available. The basketball court was always available. I know that, so I don't know. While the school was still there.
Yeah. Okay.
I lived in the neighborhood, so
Yeah.
I used to take my kid there to the playground there, so
Okay, so there's nothing needs to be
There's
done?
nothing that needs to be done, it's just we're trying to get caught up, and so that you're caught up to know which properties have been nominated and added to the National Register. And the two, I guess we'll say we're 2 for 4. The 2, Lowell School and National Bank of America, are on the National Register. The Nelson Teague Building and the St. John's Hospital are not on the National Register, but St. John's is still pending, and the Teague Nelson Building was that decision.
this one went through very quickly as well. When did they apply? When did the Lowell School apply? When did they apply for National Historic?
We got first indication, I think, in May of 2020.
And they finished it in 3 months? Something's wrong with the hospital.
I guess the nomination form was submitted to the state in February of 2020. The state Historic Sites Board met in August, and the National Park Service approved it in October. And that seemed to be the more normal course of business. That's why St. John's Hospital is an outlier, and that's why we're trying to keep everyone up to date on that. We don't really understand it ourselves very well.
Fair enough.
The other update attached in your packet is a letter from the Steifel Theater Board. This commission reviewed the plans for reconstructing the tower back at the Steifel Theater. There's a lot of discussions about the color and the metallic content of the metal that was on the tower. And this is just to report what they had proceeded to do. And they think that that's the most historically and architecturally accurate reproduction of the metal portion of that tower.
Cool.
So we wanted to provide that report to you because that was kind of a follow-up item for the Heritage Commission. And they expended quite a bit of effort to try to historically replicate that. So that brings us to item 3.2. And that item is election of officers. Attached to that is our listing of the membership roster. And we'd ask you to look at that to see if we have your contact information and phone numbers and addresses and everything correct. If there's anything that we've got there that's inaccurate, please let Margie know so we can update your information. But September is generally the time when all of our boards and commissions have their annual meeting. We tried to hold one on the 23rd of September. We didn't have a quorum, so the meeting was not held. So it was rescheduled for today. The full membership on this commission is 7 appointed members. We currently have 6 appointed members. They are Alex Driscoll, not present, Maggie Gillum, who's new, Kyle Martin, who's new, Terry Seibel, who's new, Dr. David Silverman, and the Planning Commission representative. Dan Baffa was appointed as the Planning Commission representative on the Heritage Commission. Mr. Bill Tazika and Mr. John Reynolds' terms expired at the end of August, and back in January, Amanda Bleckley resigned as her National Guard unit was called to duty.
Oh, Lord.
So we do have one vacancy, and then we have Cale Helzer, who was appointed as youth member. So our annual meeting involves the election of officers to serve the upcoming year as board chair and vice chair. John Reynolds served as your chair the past year. He's no longer on the commission. David Silverman served as a vice chair, and he is still on the commission. According to the bylaws, the Heritage Commission members must serve on the commission for 12 months before they're eligible to become a chair or vice chair. And so with our 3 new appointees, Terry, Maggie, and Kyle, they are not currently eligible to be an officer, which leaves us with David Silverman, Daniel Baffa, and Alex Driscoll as eligible for that position. From what we have found, there's nothing in the bylaws that precludes the Planning Commission representative from serving as an officer. But as it stands, we have 3 current members who are eligible to serve as chair or vice chair for the coming year, and then as the new members transition and get their first year under their belt, then they will be similarly eligible. But as it stands now, David Silverman, Daniel Baffa, and Alex Driscoll are eligible.
How long do you have to serve until you're eligible to be a table?
So, Mr. Baffa is year to year, depending on his desire and the Planning Commission appointment. Dr. Silverman's term expires next August in any event. and
And so does mine.
Alex Driscoll's goes through 2022. So at this point, I would open the floor for a nomination for the position of chair for the upcoming year.
I nominate David Silverman as chair.
Okay,
Is there a second for that?
I second.
thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further nominations?
Move the nomination cease.
Is there a
Tag,
sec-
I'm it.
Is there a second to have the nomination cease?
Second.
Okay. Nominations have ceased, leaving us with one nomination. And all those in favor of David Silverman being your chair for the upcoming year, please say aye.
Aye.
I guess I'll make it unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for your confidence.
So I will open the floor to nominations for the position of vice chair. And the eligible candidates are Daniel Baffa and Alex Driscoll. You don't have to be present to win, so
I'll nominate Alex. I'll return the favor.
we have a nomination of Alex Driscoll to serve as vice chair. Do we have?
Second that, move the nomination cease.
Okay.
Someone want to second Mr. Baffa's motion?
Sure, I'll second it. That seems
Have
like
a
a little-
nomination and a motion that nominations cease. All those in favor of the motion that nominations cease, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of Alex Driscoll as your vice chair, please say aye.
Aye. I think the ayes have it.
Okay. So at this time, we don't, other than if there is, you'll have a meeting in January, but if we have pressing business or a specific item, obviously we'll be scheduling a special meeting.
There was one item that came through via email. It's been a continuing item, and that's the work on trying to get listed on the National Park Service's registry for, is it the Underground Railroad Registry?
Yes.
Yes.
So the question we're trying to clarify was if there is a requirement that there be some special sign, monumentation, anything like that. My review of the listing is that many of them just listed a grave site in a cemetery. So the primary question, it appears that the Heritage Commission can be an applicant for that.
We can, despite,
And that you can be an applicant as long as we're not trying to obligate the Parks Department or the City of Salina or anybody else to, we were waiting to see if somebody was designing a special sign or monumentation or plaque or anything. The answer is that grave site can be listed on the list just as a grave site, doesn't require any, but we were not clear whether Mr. Klingler or others wanted to have some special sign designation or whatever.
Is that
If
something-
that makes it more complicated.
is that something we can get if it's funded from outside?
Well, if, let's say that he made something, wanted to put it there, then we'd have to get the agreement from the Parks Department and the City Commission as to who was going to be responsible to maintain that and getting permission for it to be there. So that's really the rubber meets the road question is there anything about getting that put on the listing that's going to create a maintenance or cost obligation for the city? That just simply listing that and adding it to the list of Midwest locations that I've seen that simply list the cemetery and the grave site, that incurs no cost or obligation to the city. If we're looking at something beyond that, such as a specially fabricated sign or monumentation or whatever that would have to be installed and maintained, then we have to involve more people.
Well, can we move forward with the application, and we can work out the signage later?
Is the grave in the public cemetery?
Yes.
Grave is in the public cemetery, and so there's a listing with the National Park Service that identifies locations in the Midwest that are associated with the Underground Railroad. And August Bondi had some involvement with the Underground Railroad, and his gravesite is in the cemetery, the public portion of the cemetery there. So if there were some additional monumentation or signage or plaque or something like that, we'd have to get the approval of the City Parks and Recreation Department because they maintain the cemetery, and we'd have to gain the approval of the City Commission because we'd be incurring, somebody would need to be responsible for maintaining that beyond just maintaining the grave site. So
Can we move forward with the application?
we can move forward with the application of just the grave site itself, and if there's something supplemental that comes along, we can address that as it comes.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, I
So-
think his father's one of the oldest people buried in the cemetery, actually.
Bondi?
His father is buried there.
Oh.
His father was born in something like 1790 or
Oh,
something.
wow.
So I think it's the oldest. I haven't confirmed that with the
But we
Cemetery, but I
do
think he's-
have, there's a National Park Service office in Omaha, Nebraska, and we've been coordinating with that office on this, and Mr. Berger and I have found the application. It's just a matter of getting clarification from there as who can apply, and we want to make sure we're not obligating anyone to do anything beyond what they're doing today, so. There's no fiscal impact on the city if we're just adding the gravesite to a registry or list that tells people of sites associated with the Underground Railroad.
Right. Well, that leaves the one last bit of business is to thank John Berger and congratulate him on his upcoming retirement.
John, if you want to say a word about your retirement plans and how your effective date of retirement and the fact you didn't get the chance to share that with them, and then if you'd like to share with the Heritage Commission your proudest historic preservation accomplishment. So.
Well, I do want to thank you for meeting with me over the years, and those previously positioned on the Heritage Commission, also Design Review Board. I was very honored to be able to assist you with projects, complemented and actually augmented the heritage of the downtown Salina and historic districts. That was very meaningful for me. I did have to retire pretty suddenly because I had an ill spouse and needs attention more. But my proudest moments, I believe, on the Heritage Mission was the listing of the Masonic Temple on the National Register that was followed by 7 others, and also some of the other types of things like getting the Steifel Theater going as well as improving that. So I think those will be very meaningful through the years, and I do appreciate your cooperation as well as all previous commission members. And but as far as what I'll be doing is I think I'll be doing some volunteer work if need be, but basically working from home. But I still will monitor informally the projects that are ongoing at this point. So I did want to extend my appreciation for the city staff, and they've been very generous in working with the commissions and myself, and we've made a lot of objectives possible. So thanks again.
On the subject of mothball buildings that we talked about, it's probably a little known fact that in 1990 the Dickinson Theaters basically gifted the Fox Theater, now Steifel Theater, to the city. The city basically mothballed it, and I I would indicate that John was probably the personal caretaker for that theater building, making personal trips over there and inspecting every nook and cranny to make sure we weren't getting water penetrations or leaking roofs or whatever. So there's probably not an area in that theater that John hasn't crawled around in to make sure that we weren't getting leaks or water penetration. So John is very responsible for keeping that building safely mothballed till we could get a redevelopment project going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
So before we all leave, we do have some refreshments next door, bottled water and some cookies and such that we'd be happy if you would join us and you want to have a personal conversation with John or wish him well or whatever. We'll go to the meeting room next door and we'll set up some refreshments for visiting. But that is all the official business we have for you this evening.
All right, I guess we are adjourned.
Yes.